What if I told you the world's next economic superpower isn't in Asia, but in Africa? Wait, hold up. Do you compare Africa, the world's poorest continent, to industrialized China? That's like saying a freshman with a calculator is ready to outpace a PhD with a particle accelerator. Sounds crazy, right? But think about this. Just 50 years ago, nobody believed China could ever challenge the West. In the 1970s, China was one of the poorest nations on Earth. Today, it's the world's factory, the second largest economy, and a global powerhouse. Now here is a shocker. Africa stands at a similar crossroads today. By 2050, 1 in 4 people on Earth will be African. The continent's median age is under 20. While China, Europe, and the US are rapidly aging, Africa is bursting with energy, ambition, and untapped resources. It could be the engine of global growth. But here is a controversy. Will Africa really rise, or remain stuck at the world's backyard, especially China's? Right now, Africa trades more with China than with its neighbors. Some argue Africa is being used as Beijing raw material supplier and debt client, not a partner. So, what do you think? The next China or the next missed opportunity? Before we find out, hit that like button, subscribe and share this video. And tell us in the comments below, is Africa destined to dominate the 21st century or to be dominated by others? China's story is one of the most dramatic transformations in modern history. In the late 1970s, China was one of the poorest countries on Earth. Its economy was smaller than Italy's, but everything changed under Deng Xiaoping's reforms. By opening markets, welcoming foreign investment, and allowing private business to grow, China began a journey that would shock the world.
One key advantage was its massive labor force. Hundreds of millions of young, low-cost workers flooded into factories, producing everything from toys to electronics. This workforce powered China's factory of the world reputation. In 1980, China's GDP per capita was just $200. By 2024, it had soared to over $1,300. That's a 60-fold increase in just 4 decades. Infrastructure was another cornerstone. Highways, ports, railroads, and later, entire megacities were built at record speed. Today, China has over 40,000 kilometers of high-speed rail, the most in the world. Education also became a priority, with literacy jumping from 66% in 1980 to more than 97% today. But perhaps most important was long-term government planning. China didn't leave growth to chance. It had 5-year plans that pushed industry, technology, and urbanization.
Now imagine if Africa, with its vast population and untapped potential, applied even half of these strategies. Could the continent become the world's next economic miracle? Africa holds something the rest of the world is quickly losing: youth.
By 2050, the continent's population is projected to reach 2.5 billion people, with a median age under 25. Compare that to China, where the population is already shrinking, and the average age is above 40. While Asia and Europe are struggling with aging societies, Africa is becoming the planet's youngest powerhouse. Now picture this: a continent where the workforce is not just larger than China's, but eventually bigger than China and India combined. That's not a fantasy, it's a forecast. According to the UN, Africa will add more working-age people in the next 30 years than the rest of the world combined. Why does this matter? Because growth comes from workers, consumers, and innovation. Historian Jack Goldstone argues that the world's economic future depends on how Africa uses its youth. If educated, empowered, and employed, this generation could drive a new global boom.
So, opportunity or ticking time bomb? Sounds like a question of the century. Africa's rise will not be driven by every nation equally. It will be led by a handful of powerhouses.
Take Nigeria, Africa's largest economy with a GDP of over $470 billion and a cultural juggernaut whose music and film industries shape global trends. Then there's South Africa, the continent's most industrialized state, home to advanced banking systems and a founding member of BRICS, linking Africa directly to emerging global powers. Further north lies Egypt, strategically controlling the Suez Canal, where nearly 12% of global trade passes each year. Beyond them, countries like Kenya with its booming tech hub Silicon Savannah, Ethiopia with fast-growing manufacturing, and Morocco as a renewable energy leader all represent engines of transformation. Together, Africa's top 10 economies account for over 70% of the continent's GDP. If they move in sync, they could form the backbone of an African renaissance, much like China's coastal provinces powered its early growth.
But power alone is not enough. China's rise wasn't just because of size or strength. It was about unifying growth into one unstoppable direction. China is already a giant in Africa's economic landscape. In 2024, trade between China and Africa reached a record $295 billion, making Beijing the continent's largest trading partner.
Chinese investment has poured into roads, railways, ports, and energy projects through the Belt and Road Initiative, connecting African resources to global markets. From mega railways in Kenya to energy grids in Nigeria, China's footprint is everywhere. But here's the twist. Chinese lending is slowing. New infrastructure loans dropped from $28.5 billion in 2016 to just under $1 billion in 2022, signaling that Africa can't rely solely on Beijing. To thrive, the continent must increasingly stand on its own, build local industries, and strengthen internal trade. This is where the African Continental Free Trade Area becomes a game changer. Set to create a $6.7 trillion single market by 2030, it will link 1.7 billion people across 54 nations, boosting intra-African trade, technology exchange, and industrial growth.
The question now is bigger than China. Africa has the tools to chart its own path, but can its nations unite and leverage these opportunities, or will old rivalries and divisions hold the continent back? Africa has immense potential, but the path to become the next China is filled with obstacles. Infrastructure remains a major hurdle. Railways are sparse, ports are underdeveloped, and power shortages are common, making it difficult to move goods efficiently or attract large-scale investments.
Many economies still rely heavily on raw materials like oil, minerals, and cocoa, instead of building value-added industries that can create jobs and wealth locally. Without industrialization, Africa risks being a supplier of resources rather than a global manufacturing hub. Political instability and corruption further slow progress. Weak institutions, unstable governments, and fragmented policies discourage investors and make long-term planning nearly impossible. Even countries with strong growth face setbacks from policy inconsistencies or regional tensions. Add climate change to the mix, and the challenge grows. Droughts, floods, and shifting weather patterns threaten agriculture, energy supply, and livelihoods, while rising urbanization brings pollution and waste management problems. It builds modern industries, invests in education, and leverages its youthful population.
So here is the interactive challenge. If Africa can't fix the problems, could the African century end before it even begins? The clock is ticking, and the continent's future depends on whether leaders and citizens tackle these roadblocks head-on. The African Union's Agenda 2063 lays out a bold vision, a continent fully integrated, industrialized, and thriving. But the path ahead could lead to two very different futures. In one scenario, Africa seizes its moment. It builds modern industries, invests in education, and leverages its youthful population. By 2063, Africa could become the world's next economic engine, attracting global investment, shaping trade, and innovating in technology and green energy. In the alternative future, opportunities are missed. Political instability, climate pressures, and migration crisis could hold the continent back. Resources remain underutilized, industries fail to grow, and Africa struggles to turn its demographic advantage into economic power. So here is the question to you. In 40 years, will the world look back at Africa the way we now look at China? Or will this chance slip away? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe and share this video so you won't miss what's next. Next one's brewing. Stay ready.